I believe that we are all radio towers. We're all radio.
What do you mean by that, Dave?
Let me expand it there, Steve. Now, give me a sec there, right?
Yeah.
We're all radio towers and we are emitting a frequency, a vibration. We're all energetic creatures going along, living out from our, from our subconscious. We're reenacting traumas and reacting to how we feel in each moment. And we're emitting some type of, you might call it a vibration, an energy, you might call it whatever the heck it is, a mood. And life to an extent mirrors back and reflects exactly what we emit. As Albert Einstein had some kind of a really smart phrase that said, all life is energy. This isn't, it isn't woo-woo. This is purely physics. That like, if you are emitting a certain vibration, you will only get that back.
You're paraphrasing Albert.
Well, that was
That's
a real,
great.
that was a dog of a job at it. It was a dog of a job
Einstein
at it.
paraphrasing.
Yeah. But anyway, I'd love to talk about energy and about that idea which I have, and I've certainly realised that when I feel like crap, I feel life gives me more punches and more digs, and whereas when I feel fantastic, a lot more people smile at me, a lot more good stuff happens, and the good tend to compound. And I think energy is something that managing our energy and all of this, I'd love to open up that box and dig around and root around a little bit. Are you up for it?
Wow, absolutely.
Over to you.
Off to me. Oh, the joy. Okay, so a couple things that can be very helpful. And I love that you say that. We're like radio towers because that's exactly how it works energetically. The other side that we need to look at, though, is we're also a receiving radio tower. So one of the things that I found can be extremely helpful is recognizing that somewhere around 98% of your thoughts, your feelings, your judgments are not actually yours. And so if you'll ask, who does this belong to when you're in the middle of yuck, stuck, or what the F, you can, if it lightens up at all, like let's say, you're having a great day and all of a sudden you get sad and you're like, wait a minute. And then what we do is if we get that, we then look back over our day and look back to the point where we go, oh, it's probably because of this. But in actuality, so much of the time we're picking up the broadcast of other people's radio towers. And so you can let that go if you just ask, who does this belong to? Is it actually mine? If it lightens up, it's not yours, return it to sender. Because if it's not yours, there's not a damn thing you can do about it because you can't solve it from within you because it didn't start within you. So that's one tool I want to give people. And
so how do we know if it's like I say, 98% isn't coming from us? So part of me would go, geez, we got a whole load of microbes. I wonder, are they contributing? I'm sure they are in some shape or form. And say, for example, I'm in an environment where there's loads of people. Obviously, you can't identify who it was. And the logical human brain goes, oh, it probably happened because my mortgage, blah, 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 blah.
I think what Dane is saying here is that like lots of it is the programming which comes from your parents and your environment, that's what it's not yours, that you're living your... I'm sometimes living your life because I see Stephen on my shoulder, my twin brother going, Dave, you should be doing this. And then sometimes I have my mom on my shoulder going, Dave, you should be doing that. And that's like, is that what you mean by, it's not our stuff?
Both, actually. So in other words, because if you look at it exactly that, it's like we've bought so much of who we think we are from our parents and our family before we could ever talk. And all of that was, guess what? That energetic broadcast frequency that they have. And so what we do is we energetically perceive basically the construct of their reality and how they function. And we go, oh, that's how they do it here. Cool. Like when you're a baby, you don't have a point of view about anything. You're just like, hey, feed me, please. Hey, I got a dirty diaper. That's it. But while that's going on, you're sucking up all of the points of view around you because they're energetic. Not just the things that we were told. A huge part of it is what people were being around us, which is why people tend to be like their parents. And then they become teenagers and they're like, I don't want to be like these people. So then they fight against them to try not to become them, but it's only because they already have become them. So we have that. So we have Dave on your shoulder, mom on the other shoulder, and then real time though, there's another aspect of it, which is real time. Like, there are a lot of people who have what they call social anxiety disorder, which is basically a huge amount of awareness of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions and points of view of other people energetically that they don't know what to do with because nobody's ever said, hey, it's awareness. It's not yours. And we inherently think that everything we're aware of is ours and everything we perceive as ours, but literally 98% of it is not. If you were to walk around as the being you actually are, would you have any thoughts in your head, or would you just be space and go, oh, there's that happening, there's that happening, there's that happening? And that's actually us. So you wanted to open the energetic box. This is one of the awareness.
It's almost like as you're saying, opening this energetic box. It's like, can I go?
It's also like the field as well. And I think the field is a fascinating concept.
Are you talking about the field out there, like the field for the cows?
I'm talking about the energetic.
What are you talking about?
The energy field, the cricket field.
The energetic field, because even we started our business, and we first started with a vegetable shop, and we worked in the shop for a number of years, and you quickly realized if you knew someone's name, they opened up and they were a lot more social with you, just by simply, how are you, Dean? Nice to see you. And you're going, he knows me. Cool. I can be a little bit.
It's Dane.
Dane. Okay. I can be a little less guarded. Sorry. Dane, darling. So I can be a little less guarded, or I can be a little bit less guarded, and we can have the chats and we can connect. And often what I've noted is that, say I've forgotten someone's name and I can see them walking up the street, it's like, if I can just sit with it, and when they come close enough, I'll pick it off the field, and their name will come to me. If I can just trust and not panic and go, shit, I forgot their name. It's like, sit with it. And I'm reading this interesting book, can't remember the name of it, about this guy who grew up in an African tribe, and he was kidnapped at a young age, and he was being educated by a group of Jesuit priests in Africa. And he talked about how he'd be asked questions and he always knew the answer, and the teachers used to get so pissed off. It was like, are you reading my mind? And in his head he was like, of course I'm reading your mind. Like, why wouldn't I read your mind? Because he could read the field. And this bit always fascinates me. And is this a part of the element when you talk about being affected by people's energy? It's like the field is all around, and we're not necessarily taught how to break down, as in my field, your field, picking off this. Because I know when I'm around someone that's anxious, I feel anxious. When I'm around someone who's joyful, exuberant, when I'm around my kids and they're angry, oh my God, boom. So over to you again, Dane, sorry.
No, exactly that. That is exactly it. And, science is finally starting to describe aspects of this. And in psychology, psychiatry, they're talking about mirror neurons, and it's exactly that. It's in the field. And given that there is this field, see, we keep thinking that there's somehow this arbitrary separation between us and others based on, I have my body and you have yours, so we're obviously separate. No, we're not. We are part of the field, and yeah, we have these bodies. Cool. Let's use them. Let's enjoy them thoroughly. But it doesn't mean I'm separate from you, because I can pick up on everything in your head. And that's one of the other conversations that's fun to have for me with people, is acknowledging that people are psychic. You pick up things out of people's heads all the time. Like you said, when you're around somebody who's anxious, you get anxious. When you're around your kids, when they're angry, it's like, oh yeah, it feels like being boiled alive in oil. Okay, cool. Is that yours or theirs? And then there's also the ways that we've learned to respond, where we have this need of functioning from reactive realities, as though that is somehow creating the appropriate connection. But once again, that appropriate connection is what we learned to create when we were kids. And so part of getting to us is having the acknowledgement of these things, but also undoing the way in which we've decided we have to be reactive in the world and have this need of reactive realities rather than a sense of having choice. But if you're like, for example, if you take the past few years, how much stress was there in the world? And how much did we as individuals think, wow, I'm so stressed out. Oh, I'm hopeless. I'm this. Now, personally, I didn't, because I have these tools and I use them. One of the things that Access Consciousness gives you is a lot of tools to use in the trenches that actually work to get you back to lightness. Because when you're truly being you, you've got a sense of lightness. And that's us being us. Well, so if you're walking around picking up on the stress that 8 billion people are now having at an even higher level than it was before, that's if you're not willing to step beyond, because the field is one acknowledgement, but it's number one, it's not static. And number two, you can choose where you function, where you live. So if every 95% of people are like, and and you start to go, and you're like, wait a minute, is that my or am I just aware of it? Okay, what can I choose? Like, who does this belong to? And everything I did to buy this as mine, destroy and uncreate all that crap. And now what would I like to choose? And so you can determine the field you function from, even with the awareness of the field of consciousness or oneness or whatever you want to call it that we're all part of.
So is it almost like creating, like what I'm kind of understanding it is that you're trying to we've got all this stuff which we picked up over our life, and you're going, right, what's mine, what's not mine? And you start to become aware of all these other impacts on your head and your voice and all these type of things. And you start to act from a point of conscious creation nearly. Like, that's obviously a bit of a woo-woo word, but it's kind of saying that you're actually just being much more intentional about what's yours and what do you want and what choices, in terms of my own moods, emotions and well-being, I am choosing in this moment. There's loads of stuff, bad stuff going on, but I want to react I want to keep my frequency high. So therefore, I'm reflected back with more good stuff rather than bad stuff.
Yeah. And why wouldn't we choose that? It's like and it's exactly that. It's actually having the choice. And the thing is, there's one thing to know that something else is possible, which I think a lot of us do if we allow ourselves to have the awareness. It's another thing to actually get there to choose that. And so I'm a big fan of giving people tools to get to that place where it's far easier to choose that lighter, happier place